Same age group as the previous presentation. I introduced Deris for this presentation, child sustained attention, 2 to 3 4-year-olds.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for making it to the end before the coffee break. And then my two colleagues, Cindy and Carrie, are not able to be here. This is based on 3 different research studies, and they were both leads for as well. So the first one is the 2-year-old study. The second one is the 4-year-old study. And then the 3-year-old study, the analysis has been made, but it hasn't been published yet. So I was trying to figure out how to tie all of the previous presentations together, because I like to see some sort of order. When I looked before to see what the topics were, I thought, I wonder how I ended up with this group. But I was thinking about, so in the U.S. traditional childcare, especially at the younger ages, there's most people are required to at least have a CDA, and I think, yeah, a CDA. And so they'd have a child associates, but they wouldn't have a degree. And then they're typically more authoritarian. So I thought about the meme that was presented in the earlier one, where you have the lady, it's a US show, I don't know if people know the show, but it's this lady yelling and there's a cat. So I thought of that as an authoritative teaching style. And then I thought in an authoritative classroom, we're not having any zest. But I did think we're also not practicing and allowing children to take risks in an authoritarian type of classroom. And those authoritarian type of teaching styles are also not allowing any independence. They're creating doubt. They would have doubt about the child's abilities as well. And it's also causing a lot of cognitive and then social issues as well. So that's where you have the less self-regulation, a lot of disruptive behaviors. And then again, for the cognitive part, you have lower academic abilities, typically because of the teaching model or the teaching style of the particular teacher. And then the value of choice. So there's been past research to demonstrate that if you give children choice in what they're going to be doing, it does increase social and their cognitive abilities as well. And if you want to think of that as about having embedded learning opportunities, so having opportunities for the kids to interact with the materials. And it's also, as from the previous slide, going to reduce those behaviors and allows them to be more engaged with the materials and then able to make choices as well. And then for any of us, the only way that we're going to actually learn something is if we're actually attending to it. And so for learning to occur, we have to be attending. And previous research shows that if you give children time to attend and interact with materials that they're of their own choosing, that their cognitive abilities, their interest levels will increase. And that could also be either from their own choice. There's research for teacher choice, and then also for interacting with materials from their peers as well. So for this particular, all 3 research settings were all done in the South, specifically in Louisiana. I should back up. Cindy's at Louisiana State University. Cindy and I went to graduate school together, and I'm in Minnesota, which is in the northern part of the US. And then Carrie is at Weber University, which is in Utah, would be more in the western United States. Again, this is where I was talking about the less education typically. So they'd have a CDA, which would be the Child Development Associate, or a non-educational bachelor's degree. All of them were NAEC accredited, so the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And so they all met the teacher-student ratios that were required for that. And then the number of individuals or children that were participants in their association. You see there was 49 2-year-olds, 93 3-year-olds, and 63 4-year-olds for the research. And then there were no children with disabilities in any of the studies. I'll also say that the research started at least 2 months after the school year had started. There was also an ECHRS performed, which is an early childhood environmental rating scale to look at the materials. So it's a 7-point scale that looks at science, blocks, literacy, dramatic play, all the different areas that would be typically available in our preschool early childhood tech setting. And then the behavior definitions, we're looking at the children playing with toys. So the definition would be that they have to be playing with the toy as intended. So once they engage with, say it was a car, once they engaged with it, if it was rolling and that's how it was intended to be, after that, if the child was looking at it or if the child was actually talking about it, that would still be considered as engaged with the material. So that was toy play. It would not be toy play if they were using it for anything other than what it was intended to be. So if you're going to throw the car across the room, roll it up across somebody's spine, that's not exactly how it was intended to be used. That would not be considered toy play for this particular research. And then there were 3 different conditions: the child-initiated, adult choice, and adult presentation. So the child-initiated would be just telling the kids at the beginning of the time block, go play, and allowing them to choose what they wanted to play with. For the adult choice, again, since it was a couple months into the school year, it was assumed as the teachers knew the children well enough to know what they might like. So giving them 2 different things, maybe blocks or go to the painting center, the art center. And then adult presentation would be to engage them with something that wasn't previously selected. So it wouldn't be one of those 2 choices and say, why don't you go play with, and then we used an event recording. So there are 3 different events: the child initiated, the adult choice, and then the adult presentation. And then the way that it was done is that at the beginning of the study, the teachers were told about the 3 different conditions: child, adult, or adult presentation. And then they were told this is going to be the type that is going to be today. So that way we didn't have a carryover effect from a previous session. And then we had 2 students that were in the classroom, a graduate student and an undergraduate student, that were trained. They were first trained via video, so that way we could make sure that they were reliable to be able to code the information correctly. And they stood off to one part of the classroom, being unobtrusive in the classroom, and then we told the teachers the condition and that they knew what the prompts were to give the children. And I should say on this one as well, just so that you know, it wasn't like a one and done, because you heard earlier about how many. There were, at least over the 3 different studies, at least 17 different classrooms. And then there were at least approximately 85 different observations in each of the particular studies, which is the average. And then this was the actual results. So you can see that across all 3 age groups, 2s, 3s, and 4s, or as the children aged, rather, sorry, child initiated increased as well. So child initiated was highest for 4-year-olds. And then you can see that there's not as much variability between whether they had adult choices 2, 3, or 4, or if they had adult presentation that's 2, 3, or 4-year-olds. Well, other interesting things that I thought of too was just about when you were talking about the 4-year-olds being more engaged. I'm afraid to let the kids do this. What's going to happen? I mean, they are the most engaged that they get to pick what they want to interact with. Also, you can see that child initiated is actually lowest for attention for 2-year-olds, but that probably has to do with their abilities to anyway, and that the adult choice. So the teachers knowing what they can interact with, knowing what they like, and being able to engage them with those particular materials is very helpful. It's probably a little hard to see if you're interested in specifics. So the child initiated averages was 116 seconds for 2-year-olds. The adult initiated choice was 222 seconds, and then the adult presentation was 141 seconds. And then for the 3-year-olds, same order: child, adult, and adult presentation. 233 seconds and 287 seconds, and then 205 seconds. And then for the 4-year-olds, their child initiated was 56 seconds. Adult choice was 23, and then max adult presentation was 46 seconds. For the averages for those. And then for this part too, it's just that giving children choice helps increase with their cognitive abilities. It lowers their behavior, disruptive or unwanted behaviors, which was found in previous research. They prefer their own choice over adult choice in all conditions. Attention was higher regardless, or when they had their own choice. And then productivity, and then making sure that teachers are educated on giving them the choices, making sure that they have the correct materials in the classroom, so that during that efforts at the beginning, ensuring that they had the correct, or I should say correct, it's judgmental, making sure that they had developmentally appropriate, typical materials that are engaging for children is important. Another area also that would be important to think about would be to do a choice board for the students to determine what exactly are their preferred materials, so we really know what they are going to be engaged in, and then being able to have embedded learning opportunities throughout, so that way they could be more engaged, have more opportunities for learning, have more opportunities for teaching them the information that we want them to know. And I know I have flown through all this, but I'll see what questions you might have. Yes.
What would the children normally be used to? You know, would they normally be given a free play opportunity in the rooms, or what?
Most typically, it would be mostly free play during center. We would typically call it center time, and they would have center time. So a typical US would be to be a half-day program. So, and they'd all start out with some sort of free time to get situated, then go get together, sing something, get orientated to the day, maybe go off for a larger group activity, which would be the free play, come back maybe for a snack, for recess, for a story, and then maybe for a break, and then go home.
Okay, thank you, Aaron, for the presentation, and thank you all for your attention.